Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and welcome to episode 218 of my weekly Q&A show titled People's Questions, where I answer all the awesome questions that you guys have sent this week. Now, before I begin, I'd just like to let you guys know that, unfortunately, it has been kind of raining all day, so I don't have any natural light to use, so I'm kind of filming in the kitchen right now. That's why the kind of orangish, yellowish kind of filter you're kind of looking at, so it's really just the lighting, it's not anything else. So, we got a pretty big episode this time around, and a lot of familiar ones from last episode, including maybe one or two, maybe even three newbies. So jump right into your questions. The first one comes from Matthew Vader, and you want to know, in movies, games, and TV shows, who is the best Hades? I guess in movies, I don't know, maybe the one that was in Percy Jackson. I never saw that movie. No, I take that back. I take that back. My favorite Hades is the Disney Hades, the one voiced by James Woods, if I remember correctly. I thought he was hilarious, and I absolutely loved kicking his ass at Kingdom Hearts. In terms of TV shows, I think he was in everything. So I think, yeah, there was a Hercules movie, there was a Hercules TV show, and he was in the video game. So, yeah, that's my favorite Hades. Jumping right into the next question from the lovely K Carrot. We have another Star Wars question, and you want to know, after many years that have passed, should the prequels be remade? Are you serious? Well, if the prequels should be remade, then I think the originals should be remade. I'm sorry, no, I don't think they should be remade, because this is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. It's going to be my favorite Star Wars movie till the day I die, and it's the only one that I ever actually felt any sort of emotion. And it's only been 10 years since this movie came out, so I think it's way too soon. Look, I understand that some people don't like the prequels. A lot of people don't. Some people, like myself, don't mind. In fact, I actually appreciate the prequels. In fact, in many cases, the prequels, in my opinion, have always had the better story. It just wasn't executed as well as the original films. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware that these movies are not perfect. They have several problems, especially Episode 2. Really don't like that one. But I have just as many problems with the original films, so in my opinion, they balance out. So, heck, if we don't want to remake the originals, don't remake the prequels. Let's move on to the future. Next question comes from Ace Arcadia, and you want to know, what is the weirdest conspiracy theory I've ever heard? Okay, well, I can't really think of overall weirdness, but I think the one that has most recently come up to me that I think is ridiculous, and that is the conspiracy that Disney Marvel has been paying critics in order to hate DC movies and Warner Brother movies and love their movies. I think that's ridiculous. I was one of the few that kind of didn't really like Batman vs. Superman. There were only two films in. I liked Man of Steel. That was kind of controversial. It's just the fact that in terms of actually knowing how to make superhero movies properly, it's just Marvel, in terms of Fox and DC's divisions, they just know how to do it better. I'm sure they'll catch up eventually once they actually get a director that is competent and knows how to actually film a film properly and tell a coherent story. But only time will tell if that day will ever come. So that is kind of the weirdest conspiracy I've ever heard. Next question comes from, and I'm having a hard time trying to pronounce this name, so forgive me, but Symphianfan64, I hope I said that right. You want to know, if I could choose 3 to 4 weapons from Resident Evil games, canon only, what would they be? Oh, that's an easy one. I'd want the Chicago typewriter from Resident Evil 4. I'd like the infinite rocket launcher from Resident Evil 4. And I would want Chris's knife machete that he had in Resident Evil 5 for close range. So I have a long range weapon with RPG, which pretty much can kill anything. I have a machine gun, which pretty much is good at medium range. And just in case anyone gets too close, I got Chris's big-ass machete knife. So those are my 3 weapons. The next question comes from, I believe this is a newbie. I maybe wrong. But Gush Monster? Oh, terrible with names. You want to know, do I have any tips on anyone wanting to start their own Versus series as you plan to start your own? Oh, well, when you do, be sure to leave me a link to your first matchup. I'd like to check it out. But if I can give any advice, pick a genre that you are very, very familiar with. The reason I don't do Star Wars is that I don't know Star Wars as well as the guys that actually do the Star Wars Versus series. I think my knowledge is slightly below what it needs to be. But in terms of knowledge with like video games like Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, Infamous, those are the games I know very, very well, and so research for me is quite easy. So it's more than just doing research. You kind of have to give off the indication that you do know what you're talking about and that you're not just reading off a script. I mean, I obviously read off scripts, but I type it in a way that you know that this is something that I've known for a long time, and these are my own personal thoughts. You have to make it feel organic and not artificial. If you can do that, regardless of your outcome, as long as you back up your facts and you have a good editing software and you have a good recording device, because trust me, if you actually go back to like maybe the first 3 to 4 matches I ever did, the audio in that one is just terrible. But if you can get all those components together, then I think you can make a very, very entertaining and informative versus series. So that's the idea that I would, that's the advice that I would give for anyone who wanted to start. The next question comes from Glenn Gouchard. I think I'm saying that one right. You want to know, would I ever do any anime versus matchups? Anime is a real tricky subject because Screw Attack Death battles all over that. So they're kind of like kings doing anime characters, despite the fact they kill a lot of them. There are certainly some characters I've wanted to use, but the research would simply take too long. So I want to use anime characters, but it's just, I don't have the time to. The next question comes from Dr. Kino 419, and you want to know, so how is Tarah vs. Genesis going? I have not really started it, simply because I promise you this, it's not coming out in May. Going into Season 3, I'm kind of doing a lot of redesigning. I'm coming up with a new intro. I'm coming up with new templates for each of the individual categories. I'm trying to change up my style a little bit, and especially in May, I just don't have the time because there's just so much to do. I have a big 2 trips coming up in the first 2 weeks of May. I've got 4 games I've got to play and review, plus we've got movies. I mean, in terms of video games, I got to play Homefront, Mirror's Edge, Doom, and Uncharted 4, and I got an Uncharted 4 Collection Edition unboxing, so that's like 5 videos right there. Plus I got like maybe 4 movies I have to see, and so May is just not the best time to be working on any long-standing projects. The best guess, it might come out in June. June seems a little bit slower for me, so expect for it to come out sometime there. But between now and then, I will certainly give updates when I've had time to actually, type some things down. The next question comes from Karen Kenobi, and I forgot to mention this in the last video. I absolutely love that name because Obi-Wan Kenobi is my all-time favorite Star Wars character of all time. And you want to know, what era in the Star Wars EU was a bad time to be a Jedi or a Sith? If you were a Jedi, I would say it was really bad during the first Jedi Purge, which was orchestrated by the Triumvirate. Simply because they were going around and killing Jedi, and the Council and the Jedi didn't know what was going on. It was another YouTuber, a good friend, someone I know, stated that he believed that the first Jedi Purge was actually worse than the one we saw in Revenge of the Sith, and I actually agree, because in Revenge of the Sith, you knew who was attacking you, and so you could better prepare yourself. But in the first Purge, since you don't know who's going around killing all these Jedi, it kind of brings a series of paranoia, and you're kind of on edge, like, when's this person going to come? And I think not knowing who's attacking you is a much scarier feeling. If you were a Sith, I would say probably, I want to say after near the end of the, no, not the Great Jedi Civil War. No, it was before that. Pretty much, if I can be honest, if you were a Sith, it probably just wasn't good for you to be a Sith during the Rule of Two, simply because you were constantly, if you were Sith Lord, you always had to worry about your apprentice killing you. And if you were an apprentice, you kind of had to come up with ways in order to kill your master. So it was a constant chain of, you overthrowing your master and then you knowing that the person you choose as your apprentice is going to try to kill you one day. And I just can't deal with that. I mean, it's so much like having, what if that dealt with, what if that system worked with children? I mean, parents have kids, yet they know that one day their kids are going to come up and kill them, or you have to kill your kids, or stop the chain from going. That would just be a crazy life. The next question comes from Green Siren, and you want to know, what is an urban legend or ghost story that scared you as a child or as a teenager? Ghost or urban legend? I can't really think of anything. I tell you, I don't get scared. I saw one movie and I played one video game, and from that point on, nothing has really scared me in terms of movies or games. So, in terms of urban legends and ghost stories, they don't really work on me at all. Next question comes from Kyle Zamet, and he wants to know, what is the worst weapon in Devil May Cry franchise? Worst weapon... I don't really like the Artemis from Devil May Cry 3. It was like this big-ass like laser cannon. I just felt it was just too slow. It only fired in like one-shot projectiles. I mean, it had a function where you could actually fire like this projectile in the air and it would fire off like 3 targets, but I just thought it was just too slow. I mean, it wasn't as compatible with the other weapons as I thought the shotgun or the twin pistols were, but that's just my opinion. And the last question comes from Phil Chuck Marks, and I believe you are definitely a new one. And you want to know, who is the most powerful skilled swordsman in Final Fantasy? Oh, that's an easy one. It's undoubtedly Sephiroth. I've stated this. In terms of sheer raw skill, Sephiroth really is the all-time best. I would say the only reason that someone like Cloud could beat him, but it's not the best, is simply because he has so much experience and he has so much knowledge on Sephiroth. It's kind of the same dynamic that you would put between, say, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. Skill-wise, Anakin Skywalker is the better fighter, and even Obi-Wan Kenobi acknowledges that. But it's the fact that these two know each other's skills and they know each other's fighting forms so well, and they've dueled. They sparred for years, so they knew each other's skill sets inside and out. It was the fact that Obi-Wan knows so much about his skill set, so he knows how to exploit it and how to win. And Cloud works the same way. Skill-wise, head-to-head, he can't beat Sephiroth, but if he does it smartly, if he plays it smart and sees an opening and takes advantage of it, then he can beat Sephiroth. And with that... I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, that is the end of the video. So, if you like this episode, be sure to like, comment down below, and please subscribe, check me in my future videos. If you guys have any more questions you'd like to send in next week, be sure to type them in the comments down below, but make sure you get into me before next Wednesday before I start filming this episode. And be sure that next Wednesday, this time, I actually should be at Disneyland. So if you guys come up with some Disneyland questions, I'll be sure to try to answer them as I am going on some rides or walking around, because I think that will be a very interesting experience. So with that out of the way, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.